Okay, now close your eyes and think of a happy place.
You are about to experience the PowerShell Podcast, the podcast for PowerShell and the PowerShell community. The PowerShell Podcast is a PDQ production, making device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick. And now, here's your host, Andrew Plaw.
Welcome to another episode of the PowerShell Podcast, Bar Sessions, and I'm joined with the host with the most. You know, we're missing Kevin Locks. I need to get Kevin on the podcast, but I'm joined by Phil Bossman and Mike Kanakos, and you know, maybe we'll get Kevin on another bar session here, or maybe tomorrow whenever I'm at the conference we can get him on. But welcome to the podcast, guys. Fantastic event. The vibes are on an all-time high. So thank you all for putting this together. I know it's not an easy endeavor to put together a conference and not only plan everything, but also be there present and encourage people and kind of get the vibes up. But you've all done a successful job. Everybody I've talked to today has had a fantastic job or fantastic time, and their expectations have been exceeded in some instances. We have people traveling from Maryland, people traveling from Georgia, and well worth a trip. So kudos to you all. How's it been for you, though?
Well, so thank you for the nice words, and that's awesome to hear. That's what Phil and I had hoped for, but I personally have some pretty high expectations. We did an event 5 years ago, pre-COVID, and so we kind of based our standard off of that. And so, to be very candid, it's been very hard to just get people to commit to the same level of participation that they did a few years ago. So that's the biggest challenge, is just getting people to show up and be a part of the event. Getting them here, once they got here, that kind of took care of itself because our community is so great, speakers are great, people come with the right attitude, but just getting people to say, yeah, I'll do that, was pretty hard this year.
Yeah. The numbers of the ticket sales were just kind of concerning at the beginning, and you're like, why do people not want to come? But then people just started showing up at the end. And I think that once they understand and like, what was the value of, you know, oh, hey, I don't want to come because it's like $100 for ticket. I'm like, $100 is nothing in comparison to anything. And then they go, that's the value I got for that. That was the best $100 I've ever spent.
It's definitely worth investing in yourself. And I can understand how a conference, it's a couple $1,000, whatever, it's a little bit too much to bite off, but if you can get an affordable conference that's community-oriented, you're not only going to learn fantastic content. First of all, congrats on you all for getting such great speakers. I mean, from what I hear of the attendees, and myself included, the sessions were fantastic.
Well, I'll say this. That's more luck than skill. We just have a community of people that want to do something, so it wasn't a really hard ask to get people to participate. Like you said in the lead here, we had speakers that traveled, and there's no way that it's financially viable for them to come other than to lay out a bunch of money out of their own pocket. And they came of their own volition, and they're happy to do it. It's not like we asked them 10 times to come. It was like, hey, man, we're doing a conference. Would you like to come? Oh, I'm definitely coming. Yeah. You know, so we're lucky. We're lucky in that regard.
Yeah, I'm happy that the community does that, and then both for the attendees, they want to come and receive that content, but the speakers are just as excited to come to this event and to share that content.
Yes,
and to be attendees at the very next session. So they are just as excited as the attendees sitting in the session, and then they just I got to get up and do my talk next. And so this is just one of those things where the community is just awesome at that point, and the content is just great, and the community just supports each other that way.
The community here is fantastic. And I personally feel so fortunate to be able to be present here for this week, but also just to be part of the community. And I think everyone that we see who knows PowerShell is more than happy to share those details. I think that was a big takeaway for me today, is like, I'm not the only one who's passionate about PowerShell and sharing it. Like, anyone else who's accomplished anything or learned anything is happy to share that info with others. You just gotta, as one of the others who's maybe requesting some information, put yourself out there. And I think that was a big takeaway that a lot of people had.
Well, one of the things that I was super worried about was when we were selling tickets and we have access to the software and you see the ticket sales come in and you see the names, there's people we know from our user group or from the community or whatever, but then there's brand new names. And so that's great, but you wonder, like, what's the vibe going to be when there's 50% new people coming? And I was so excited this morning when we had breakfast this morning. We had a nice hot buffet for everybody. I walked in after everybody had breakfast, and it was just 50, 60 people sitting at tables talking it up with each other. And I was like, oh yeah, the vibe is there. I thought I was worried that people would be like maybe
isolated
or afraid to talk, and people just opened right up. And it was really like you could feel the community feel of the event at 8:30 in the morning. We hadn't even started yet. That was for me. It was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be a good day.
Yeah. And there's also some content tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Sunday. What is the Sunday content looking like?
So let's start with what the Saturday content was. So the Sunday content makes a little bit more sense.
It is absolutely different. So the content on Saturday is a different event. It is more. Go ahead, Mike.
So if we go back to the beginning, user groups there isn't as many user groups as there once was, but there was this concept of PowerShell Saturday that existed for about 10 plus years, where essentially you come and there would be a whole range of speakers. And what we were doing is every hour, we were giving people two choices to pick sessions they want to see. So you pick one or the other, and you go to it, and every hour you'd have a new choice. Tomorrow, we put that option on its head, and we say we have two speakers for the day, and they're each going to do 5 hours of content split over. They're doing 4 hours of content split over about 6 hours. We're going to take some short breaks to give people a chance to get a breather. But so today was like 10 different speakers and shotgun. Tomorrow is 2 speakers going really deep into the weeds on more deep content. And so the actual content is going to be Sean Wheeler talking about best practices with parameters and understanding all the stuff about the PowerShell language. That's one session. He'll be doing that with Stephen Judd. They'll be talking about Crescendo, Azure Cloud Shell, cross-plat, the whole sort of like best practices for PowerShell and how to set up your environment. And then the other talk is Stevie Coaster doing best practices of app deployment and obviously how that relates to Chocolatey.
Yeah, but he's also going to do non-Chocolatey centric stuff, is app deployment at a fundamental level. And that's what I'm excited to hear about that point, is because, he is, he's been in the industry long enough that he understands that problem and can relate that. So it's not like, hey, here's a marketing spiel by this vendor. No, here's how you do it just overall. And that's the exciting part. And so it'll effectively, the Sunday is a deep dive, and you pick a track. You can jump between where you need to be, but it is a deep dive for that different topic. And then Saturday was this more potpourri of, every hour was something new.
Like organized chaos. By the end of the day, you've been to 10 sessions or 8 sessions, and your mind is like, I saw so much stuff. Tomorrow you're going to see a lot of stuff, but it's on one topic. You can really just focus on.
And there's a vision. There's a flow. There's a walk. There is a path to follow, and that's tomorrow.
If there's a path to follow, you know who's leading it? The RTP sub. That's right, man. That's right. You read my mind. You're on the same vibe. So I think that the consistency of your group has really done so much. So kudos to you for making that happen year over year for such a long time. For me, it's been really eye-opening to be here this week, and I've learned new things. I've been in PowerShell for a while. I think I know a thing or two. Attended some sessions in my day. But even today, shout out to Neha. I know you're her boss. She had some things to say about you. Yeah. She didn't say anything bad about you.
All right, I'll have to listen in and hear now.
Oh, you should. She did a great podcast and a great session.
Do me a favor, if you could publish that soon, because it's review time soon. So maybe we can see how that factors in.
Well, she represented Align Technologies in a fantastic way. But it's very cool to see people who are experienced speakers and people who are first-time speakers, and they're all enjoyed, and they all did a great job. I think they definitely put in the effort to make it successful. I think Blake Cherry is another one that comes to mind as someone who, gosh, his presentation was fantastic. For a first-time speaker, I was blown away. I was like, gosh.
He was super polished.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah.
But I think the value is that if those who are not, normal speakers, is to know that just sharing what they have. And so that's exactly what Blake did, and that what Neha did, is that, hey, I've done something, and I'm just going to reflect that back out and share that. And just knowing that, like, if you achieve that, there is value to bring back to that. And if we can simply just turn people into that mode, where just like, hey, I can give this back to the community, and realize there is so much value in that. And that's what I'm super excited about. And that's why I was really excited. I think in our last podcast, I'm like, I'm so excited to hear Neon's talk.
I'm so glad she agreed to do the pod as well. So thank you for pressuring her into it, Mike. She said it was her first time holding a microphone. I was like, oh, great. I'm excited.
So a lot of firsts for her. But so the interesting thing about that for me is this, all of us are associated with the summit in some way. I think we've all been presenters at the summit, right? And so we all can understand that there's a certain level of anxiety that comes because of the high level, the high degree of content that they have there, right? It's very high level content. And so we don't want that at a Saturday. We want a community event. And this event was a mix of 70 people. That was some beginners, some intermediate. We have some really knowledgeable people, but there's value in speakers taking a shot at doing something for the first or second time, exercising that muscle, getting stronger at that, people come in and seeing just a different way of people work, so it's not the super polished event that the summit is. It's more of a homegrown feel, but it works.
I think that's a selling point for it, to be honest.
Think so. Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
so.
And it's meeting the community where the community is and understanding what the community is. And community is a confluence of all these different people, of all these different cultures, of all these ideas. And that's exactly what I enjoy so much about it, is that you find people, and Mike has said it before, is that I really enjoy taking the SQL DBA and introducing him to, the security guy, and they just vibe in a wholly different way than anything you've ever seen before, because they are speaking the same language of IT, of PowerShell itself, and they're in different languages ultimately to themselves. So they relate to each other differently, but also they absolutely relate to each other. And that's where PowerShell can kind of bridge all of those gaps. And it's wonderful.
Shout out to the PowerShell community at large. I personally feel so fortunate to be part of this. I mean, there's just my life has been changed by the PowerShell community. And it's so cool to see people who are on the beginning stage of seeing that happen in their lives, beginning part of that journey. I think we talked about in the career panel today about, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, because the journey doesn't ever end. There is no final destination for this whole PowerShell or career thing. And just for me, it's been very invigorating. And it always is. Anytime I see a good number of people who are very hungry, ready to have their careers changed, bought in, it's inspiring for me.
Well, so we're having this really great conversation. We're talking about all this wonderful stuff, but I do have to share something that concerns me greatly, which is we do have a wonderful community, but our community has become a lot of consumers. We need producers. There's very few user groups. There's less events to go to. There's less blog posts. There's less videos. I'm not saying we're doing a bad job. It's just we have to get back to everybody doing a little bit so that there's this rich community. Or else what happens is the people that do it get burned out. And if nobody fills in, then it sort of falls down. And so that's what I'm a little bit worried about right now.
Because they sort of have to overcompensate for the lack of content. Yeah, I can feel that. Yeah. I might be one of those who's putting out more than their fair share, and I think you are as well. But yeah, I think if you're out there listening, get involved, start attending user groups, maybe look to speak at some. I think most user groups are very open to first-time speakers. Maybe start your blog. You can get one started for free on GitHub Pages. I'm looking at Raphael right now. I'm excited for seeing where he goes with things, but yeah, I agree with you there. There's definitely a room there's an opportunity there for us to improve things.
I certainly don't want to dictate the method that people participate. I wrote an article years ago, 10 ways you can participate in the community. And literally number one on the list is say thank you to someone that you got something useful from. So there's plenty of ways that you can help. For some people, it's writing blogs. Maybe for us, it's doing a user group. Maybe for James Petty, it's organizing the summit. But you don't need to do those grandiose plans. Write an article that's useful to people, right? Just commit to doing something to do your fair share. Don't be just a consumer,
I think even, call it the community at large. I think the community can be as small as you need it to be as well. And so do some of that thing within your own community, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this, as you keep oftentimes. It's like, hey, not that you start a user group at your company, but just evangelize for what you're doing. And hey, I want to share with somebody else. Did you know you could do this in PowerShell? It's just giving back even to the little parts. Now, granted, that's not to the worldwide community, but in doing that in those forms where, hey, I can see some value that I can bring to you. And so that's oftentimes what I do when I'm engaging with other technical people. When did you know you can do this in with my own workspace? It's like, hey, how can I help you with that? Is that the best way you can do that? Or like, did you know about this other module? Like, hey, AI helped you and it gave you this code and hey, it's in PowerShell, but you're actually creating a CSV file raw out of like text, a string plus a comma. Like that's AI will give it to you, but did you know that there's this thing? Like, hey, let's introduce you to import CSV and export CSV. And then, hey, once you get to that stage, let's talk about like Excel documents. We can talk about that, but evangelizing to the things that you know that, granted, I've been in the industry long enough, so I know a lot, but even the people who have been only in for a little, hey, here's this little module that I know and that I use every day. Like those individual people can share that with the next person. And then it just builds and builds and builds.
A big thing I talk about on the podcast is find your next step, whatever that means for you. If you're a super noob, that could be showing appreciation. Like, maybe give the podcast a 5-star review or reach out to some blog you've read, reach out to the author and say, hey, what's up? But maybe you're a little bit further along. Maybe you need to publish that little function. You need to put that on GitHub or write a blog or whatever it is for you.
Well, let's put that in real terms, right? Like, so the three of us are producers in some way, shape, or form, right? We've all gotten to the point where like, man, I'm getting tired. It's a lot of work or whatever. When someone says, hey, I read that article and that was really cool, it just gives you such a good feeling that you want to do more, right? And so saying thank you to someone or like you said, help committing to a repo or doing something like that, it gives those people who started a project or shared an idea the energy to keep going. And that's kind of really important because the person that's doing that has the right intention when they start, but you can become jaded when you give and you don't see any return from it. Like, and what I mean is the internet is a big place. I wrote an article and I don't even understand. No one even reads my page. Or I think no one reads my page, right? So kind words from one person can really make an impact to someone who's willing to put the time in and share some knowledge.
Yeah, I've really felt that this week because I don't want to say I was at a low necessarily, but I was thinking, I know there's some views on the pod, but like who's really listening? And, prior to this event, I got a nice message and that really fired me up. And then seeing people in person and seeing, wow, people are actually out there engaging and hopefully changing their careers and their lives with PowerShell. It really is the fuel you need to keep doing.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people may listen to this kind of stuff and assume that the people that produce stuff, we're making thousands of dollars doing this extra work. And for the large portion of most people, that is not the truth. We're doing this because we enjoy doing it. We want to help other people.
Paying it forward.
Right, paying it forward, but really doing it at somewhat of a loss, either financial or time spent with family or whatever. And so when someone just says, hey, man, that was cool, it just really drives the gears to do more. So all I'm trying to say is we just need more people in the community to find a niche for themselves and participate in a way that makes sense for them. I'm not going to say do this thing, but just do something.
Yep. I hope if you're listening out there that you take this as your kind of opportunity. Maybe we're vibing with you. Maybe you're connecting with what we're saying. Take advantage of the opportunity to take that next step for you. Reach out to somebody. Tell them you appreciate them. If you heard a podcast with a great guest, reach out to them, connect with them on socials. Tell them, hey, I really appreciated what you said. I discovered X, Y, or Z from what you said, and it helped change my career, or it just helped me out a little bit. That type of thing goes such a long way because I think there's a lot of people in the PowerShell world who are creating content who aren't hearing anything. And people are getting a lot out of that. It's the least you can do. It's literally the least you can do. So please make sure you're taking those steps and supporting the community that's supporting you as well. The community feeds itself.
Yeah. And you could even just, hey, check out this great podcast that I saw, or, hey, here's this module that I've seen, or that it doesn't have to be, hey, I'm going to produce content, or even I'm going to share with the overall world. Is that, hey, sharing with coworkers, sharing with individuals who you can relate to directly.
Well, I'm going to use myself as an example for a second. So, Phil and I have been doing this user group for a while. I've done stuff with the summit. Phil recently became an MVP. Congratulations, right?
Thank you.
I'm an MVP, but people meet us and people meet me and they're like, oh, dude, you do such great stuff. The truth is, I don't produce a lot of stuff. My contribution is my mouth, right? I'm an evangelist. I help others that have something cool. I talk about it. There's other people that produce modules and technical stuff. So it's not always just about produce something, right? It could just be like, this module is cool and I want to let people know because you can do cool stuff with it. You don't always have to be the technical widget builder. You could be the guy that lets the technical widget builder get some cred because you spread the word for them, right?
Yeah, connecting others to others.
Yeah, I think I do more of that than produce things that people use. I run a group where we evangelize a bunch of speakers that are doing great stuff. So there's an avenue for everybody.
And find your niche, find your opportunity to contribute to the community. Your life is going to be better for it. I can say that I'm personally so grateful that I'm able to have year-over-year friendships and relationships that build and grow. And I add new friends because, like I frequently say on the podcast, you can go through your career and you can do your job and get paid for it. That's awesome. Or you can do the same thing, get paid more, and have amazing friends that you retain. And to me, it's just so much more rewarding to have that kind of friendship and community vibe to it. So.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking this thought about 4 or 5 minutes ago. I was like, wow, you guys are really talking about such benevolent topics here. You guys are so nice. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I want to make more money, right? And what I mean by that is just, the real reason that everybody does this is because they want to get better at what they do so that ultimately you can go back to work and show some expertise and hopefully get rewarded for that, grow in your career, be able to make more money. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I'm not saying people doing this just to make more money, but all this goodness that is in the community, we all want the same thing. We want to get expertise so that we can show, worth to our employers and they'll reward us for the work that we love to do, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think there's nothing wrong with admitting that and saying, I want to be the best I can so I can earn as much as I can. So I love the community that wants to do all this great stuff, but it's okay to say, I really want to get good at what I do so that I can do the best for me, my family, my situation. There's nothing wrong with that.
For sure. I think that's so impactful too. If you can increase somebody's salary by 5, 10K, that can change a lot of people's lives and their families' lives.
Absolutely.
And you can, I was going to say, you can do both. You can participate in the community and do good things for others and get expertise for yourself and earn more money.
I think my addition to that is not so much even the financial number, it's the stress level and the idea of work-life balance. Is if I can get to a stage where, hey, I can make the same amount of money, but I don't stress as much, or I can automate more work that I don't want to have to get a phone call.
That's huge.
And that's my call. Is the idea is somebody says, oh, we want to do this and we want to do it on Saturday. Why do I want to do this on Saturday?
Right.
I do not want to do this. What can I automate away? And what can I do? Like, I do not want that call. Like, I'll take the exact same salary, but if I don't ever call me on a Friday, don't ever call me on a night. And I want to put some automation tests in place so that I absolutely know with 100% confidence that Friday night it's going to run and you will not call me. So I can sleep easy that you will not call me. And so that's the value. That's the value I look at, is not so much like, give me more money, give me more peace of mind. Yeah. And that's where I'm looking for. So that's personally, that's for me, is not so much, hey, give me more money at that point. So I fully respect you, Mike, in that regard, is give me more money. Like, I really would gladly, take, not gladly take a pay cut, but some of this idea, hey, you can make more money, but I look at more money going, that's potentially more stress to me. And is that really worth that additional money? And really, if I could automate even more of it so that I have less stress with the same amount of money, that's a net positive for me.
And that's a guarantee you can get by implementing PowerShell, is you can get that,
absolutely,
that free time, and long term, that can open up doors to more career stuff. And
absolutely.
If you get involved in the community, that can open up doors to conferences and attending and things like that, which is, to me, a huge sell as well. Like, definitely having a good salary and being able to take care of yourself and your family, incredibly important. But at a certain point, you also want to be able to hang out with the friends and be able to have the free time and not stress all the time. So, amazing points.
Yeah. The unspoken part of our jobs in the IT industry is the almost 24/7 nature of jobs, right?
Absolutely.
And so I was working at another place and I was working with an internal auditor, and I was like, we were just talking, I'm like, oh, what do you, I was like, oh, what are you doing tomorrow? She's like, oh, in an hour I'm checking out, and I'm not going to look at my work phone for the next 3 days, and then on Monday morning I'll come back to work and I'll figure out what's next. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. And so the expectation that just comes with our industry. And so going back to what Phil was saying and going back to expertise, if you can learn to automate stuff so that you don't have to sit there on a Saturday and do it yourself, work can still happen on Saturday, but it's not necessarily you pushing a button because you built automation or tools or systems. That's what we're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
Not this idea that I don't want to work, but build better ways to work so that you have a semblance of a life outside of work. Right. And learning the skills to do that.
Yep.
And automation with PowerShell enables all of that.
Facts. And you know what? I normally end this with a bunch of questions. I'll quickly ask for each of your socials, but I think that's a fantastic way to end it. Leave this bar session knowing that that's your answer to your future. If you're not totally bought in, get involved, change your life, change your family's life long term. But Phil, where can we find you on socials? Mr. MVP.
Mr. MVP, I at Schlog. I'm typically Schlog everywhere, but on GitHub I'm Bossman. But Schlog is pretty much everywhere. And then
can you spell that? Nobody knows what the hell Schlog is.
SCHLAUGE. What's up, Schlog?
And I'll have a link in the show notes. Mike, where can we find you, man?
I'm much easier. Mike Kanakos, almost everywhere. Twitter. I like Mastodon, but nobody seems to be there with me. But that's okay. LinkedIn is my new favorite place to hang out. So
I want to try LinkedIn, but I just need to find my way there. So I think we've talked before. I want to try and do that over the next year now that I'm MVP. So
and I'll plug my website, commandline.ninja. Go check it out.
Can I give a special shout out to Nico?
Sure.
For holding it down all week, crushing it. Mike Kanakos, his very own son, the flesh and blood.
Hello.
Hey, man. Great job this week.
Thank you.
Did you learn anything new this week?
Yeah, I really liked, I don't know, my dad told me to come in on some talk about, I don't even know what it was. PowerShell Universal, and I thought it was really interesting. So
that is a very cool module. Well, it's... Why don't you tell people who you are so they understand the context? Yeah, what's the context here? Who are you?
I'm Nico Kanakos. I'm Mike's son. I'm 15. I do a lot of game development online. I do a lot of Discord bots, JavaScript, Lua, stuff like that. So
that's cool. Lua is used for like a lot of game kind of hacking or mods, I should say.
Yeah. So that's what I enjoy doing.
I'll have to hit you up because I play Balatro, and the mods are in Lua, so I might have to hit you up for some advice there. But I think I've actually, attending RTP Sug over the years, I've kind of seen you grow up a little bit. So it's cool to get to meet you in flesh.
Thank you.
Yeah, little Nico's now taller than all of us.
All right. Awesome, man. Well, thank you all for joining me on the podcast. And thank you out there for listening. Until next time, this has been the PowerShell Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the PowerShell Podcast. The PowerShell Podcast is a PDQ production, making device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick.